One, you buy a house that you didn't know you can't afford. The bank repossesses the property, it goes to a sheriff's auction, you end up paying off the balance for the rest of your life. Or you're stuck with this property that's full of insane defects that end up costing you hundreds of thousands of rands that you could have avoided if you had followed the plan and inspected the house properly and asked the right questions. So you can avoid all these pitfalls if you actually follow the plan, and I want to share that plan with you today. So let's use the typical example in South Africa. When you look thinking that it's time for a bigger home or it's time to buy your first home, you go on the portals, you go on Property 24 and you put in the price range you think you can afford and you start scrolling. You're looking at beautiful homes. You bring your husband and your wife in, your kids. You get everyone excited about this dream that we're going to now have our first home, or that we're going to move from an apartment to a much bigger home. You scroll down to the bottom, you see the monthly repayment, and you tell yourself, yeah, the monthly repayment doesn't look so bad, and that's all the checks you do. You pick up the phone, you phone the estate agents, and you start arranging viewings, and you are so caught up in the excitement and the love that you're gonna buy a new home. But there are critical steps in there that you should not miss to avoid the pitfalls that we are discussing today. These are the mistakes that can be avoided before you start seeing homes, during the process of home buying, and after the purchase. You're starting to think about buying a home. I'm going to share with you some things that you must start doing before you start setting up viewings to go and see homes. Firstly, you should subscribe to this channel because we're going to be giving information like this every week. You do not want to miss this. First thing that you want to do is you have to have an understanding of what your affordability is before you phone agents to go and view. There are multiple avenues. Us in Remax, we are partners with a company called Better Bond. We have consultants in our offices that are able to check your affordability by comparing your income, your expenditure, your disposable income, your credit history, and all of these factors, and analyzing what amount a bank might offer you to purchase. You might think on your family home budget and spreadsheet that just because 20,000 Rand a month looks affordable to you, that's what you qualify for. And the banks have their own criteria that they use to determine what is safe, risk managed lending. The banks don't lend recklessly based on the house you want. They have their own criteria that determines what is safe, secure lending. You have to use a professional to guide that process. And here's the thing that everyone misses. What your bank app tells you can afford is 1000% not what you can afford. If I went off of what my FNB app says I can afford, I would be living in a multi-million rand mansion, and I simply cannot afford that. You have to get pre-approved before you start going to see homes. The reason why is that when you are now phoning agents, you are phoning agents in the price bracket of what you already know you're going to qualify for. And when you're doing a pre-approval process, they might say that they've picked up unpaid accounts, where they need paid up letters, the things that are going to impact your bond application. It would be much wiser to sort those things out that may be picked up in the pre-approval process, so that by the time you then go ahead and purchase a home, those things aren't affecting your interest rate and your overall credit worthiness and affordability. So it's so important to first do a screening, pre-approval, proper check, so that you have the confidence that when you walk into a home and you are comparing, when you see the home that you really want, you can sign for it and you know that the deal's going to go through. You don't want to sign an offer to purchase. You don't want to walk your family into homes wondering, questioning, still carrying an element of doubt that I'm going to get my family in love with this home and the bond application won't be approved. You've finally seen the home that you really like. All the financial considerations are done. Now we need to talk about the mistakes to avoid during the process of buying this property so that you're not sitting with issues later on. So we're going to chat about questions to ask the agent. We're going to chat about the other costs that are associated with this house in terms of rates and levies and things like that. And we're going to chat about, I think, the most important thing, which is the disclosure and inspection of defects that you're going to sit with for the rest of your life. You phoned the agent, you are at the home, you are viewing the property now. You want to have a good understanding, firstly, of the finances involved with owning this home. What are the rates and taxes? What are the levies? Are there any special levies being imposed by the body corporate that you need to budget for every single month? Because here's the thing, a 2 million rand property with 5,000 rand in extra charges is less affordable than a 2.2 million rand property with cheaper monthly costs. So it's incredibly important to know what you are in for in terms of these monthly costs that are coming off of your household income every single month. All right, so you are aware of those things. What we now need to look at are the defects and the condition of the property. So here's the thing, if you didn't know, no agent may advertise a home unless they've been given a seller's disclosure. So what is a seller's disclosure? It's a document that every seller has to do when they put their property on the market, where they disclose any defects that they are aware of in the property. The most important defects are what we call latent defects, hidden defects. These are the things that you wouldn't know are wrong with the property. It's unreasonable that you would climb up into the ceiling and see the condition up there. So, but if a seller knows that there are wiring issues, there are rats up in there that are chewing on cables, it is the responsibility of the seller to disclose these things to you. Here's where the responsibility falls on you, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. The law requires you to do a reasonable inspection for all of the patent defects. Now, what does that mean? These are defects that are patently obvious. All right, it's your responsibility to check cupboard doors, tiles for cracks, open taps, flush toilets. So any things you can see with the naked eye, you've got to be able to check. Are any of the walls cracked? Is there damp? You know what? I would rather have you ask the agent and to ask the owner if you guys can move couches away from the walls so that you can inspect those walls. Do a reasonable inspection. A big mistake that I see buyers make, they walk into homes and they do a 2-minute viewing and they fall in love and they run out. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, please take your time. If you view a home with me or with Remax One agents, we will have scheduled at least 30 minutes for you to view a home. Don't rush. Take your time and go through all of the defects step by step. Now, here's a red flag. If you walk through a home and you are not holding a seller's disclosure document from that agent, you are in for shit later on. It's an agent's responsibility to give you this document up front so that you can see if there are any hidden problems in the home that the seller knows about that the agent needs to convey to you. All right, the agents must pass that on to you. In fact, if an agent has not received that document from the seller, they should not be scheduling viewings with you. That's how serious disclosures of defects are. Now, let's talk about, I think, one of the most important things of this whole process, which often gets overlooked, and that is the agent that you work with. If this process is guided by an unprofessional, untrained, unqualified agent, it's going to be very expensive for you. But the thing is, for you as a buyer, you go on the website and you click and you just phone the agent who's got the listing. But I want to sort of empower you to ask the right questions and to avoid some of these common mistakes. Here's the first tip to look out for. If you phone an agent and they immediately tell you, yeah, you can see the house in 30 minutes, come. That is not a professional agent. Here's what we do at Remax One, and it protects you, it protects the seller. A Remax One agent and any quality, well-trained agents, when you inquire about viewing a property, the very first thing they will ask you to discuss with you is your affordability and your pre-approvals, as we discussed before. That is a green flag, not a red flag. Buyers, if an agent is asking about your affordability, you're dealing with a good agent. And we do security checks, guys. We have to do security checks on buyers. If an agent is opening doors for you without even asking for a copy of your ID, red flag. But here's, I would say, the most important one, because I'm really harping on defects today. If you're viewing a property and that agent does not have the mandatory seller's disclosure to disclose to you things that are wrong with the home as you are walking through the home, you are not dealing with professionalism here. Remember what I said, that agent does not have the right, the authority, and our code of conduct does not allow agents to market homes without a sheet listing defects that the seller has disclosed. So these are just some little red flags to watch out for. You've got to work with an agent that understands pre-approvals and affordability. So that agent is showing you the right homes. And it's got to be an agent that's gotten the right paperwork and documentation from the seller. I've had instances where a buyer bought a property and had never seen the levy statement. And then we see that the body corporate is doing a whole bunch of special projects, and there's a special levy that this buyer is now stuck with for over a year. And you can't do a viewing without looking at a levy statement, rate statement. If your agent is marketing homes and they themselves don't have a copy of the levy statement or the rate statement, and they've guessed the figures they've put on the listing, how do you think the rest of the process is going to go? So there are basic things we look for in terms of competency of an agent. And I want you to look for these things as well, so that you don't get stuck and tied into a transaction with an unqualified, untrained, unethical agent, because that will cost you a lot of money. Everything has gone well. You've fallen in love with the house now. You've checked defects. You've looked at all of these things. You've checked the extra costs. All right, now you want to enter into an agreement of sale with the seller through the agent. Here are some important considerations. You want to understand the costs involved with purchasing. Transfer costs, transfer duty, bond registration costs. All of these costs need to be paid prior to registration. So you will need to come up with that money in about 60 to 90 days. So make sure that you factored these things in. Again, we don't want you signing contracts and you can't afford the lawyer's fees later on. Just a tip to our purchasers, please, when you are depositing money to conveyancing attorneys and transferring attorneys' accounts, please phone the attorney firm and telephonically verify banking details. We are seeing a lot of cases of emails getting intercepted by criminals who are getting you to pay the money into fraudulent accounts. And a lot of buyers are losing money this way. So just remember that tip, telephonically confirm banking details. Now here's the thing, we want you to read that OTP, that agreement of sale, the offer to purchase. It's a legally binding document. All right, so take time with it. I'm happy for you to sit with the agent and have their assistance to complete the contract. But take it home, go and read it at home before you submit it. If there are any things you want to query or question, remember it's a living, breathing document. You can change it however you wish. Put your wishes on that document. Don't just sign what the agent gives you in front of you and hope that extra things the person has thought of. If it's not in writing, it doesn't exist, ladies and gentlemen. I would rather have a buyer phone into our office and say, "Hi, Ivan, I'd like to speak with you before I sign an offer with one of your agents. I just need clarity on clauses 1, 2, 3. I would rather have that than an agent who signs an offer to purchase and then later on says, "Yeah, but I thought this and this," where it wasn't included in the agreement of sale. Same advice that we give for sellers applies to you, buyers. Estate agents that you enter into agreements with, our code of conduct states that a candidate or an intern estate agent, property practitioner, may not sign a contract with you, an offer to purchase, without a qualified full status agent present. Now, it might be a little bit awkward, but I would rather have you phone in and double check. "Hi, Ivan, I'm dealing with one of your agents, Mitchell. Can I just verify that he's under supervision or he's being you are overseeing his work? I just want to get clarity on clauses 1, 2, 3. I would rather have that than clients entering into agreements with unqualified, unsupervised agents who aren't explaining clauses properly. And later on, when you thought that the house was coming with all these things and these massive pot plants were going to remain, and then you see the seller has taken the bar out and you're confused and you're saying, "But why didn't anyone tell me?" It's the agent's job to get everything that the seller wishes and everything that the buyer wishes into an agreement that they both agree and sign, and that agent is going to be supervised so the legal advice is correct. So buyers, that contract is your document. It's not a standard template for how you buy a house. The contract says you're buying from seller through agent, you're the purchaser. These are the particulars of the property. This is the purchase price that you're offering. Don't be pressured by an agent to write a number. You are offering a price to the seller. You know the terms that you can fulfill, the number of days for bond, the number of days to pay cash. If you want to say to the seller that this agreement is subject to the seller fixing the pool pump, the seller painting these walls that are damaged, the seller leaving XYZ behind, it is your document between you and the purchaser. The agent is there to record your wishes, pass them on to the seller. The seller can either accept your offer, they can counter your offer, amend the terms and see if you will agree, or they can reject it. But don't feel pressure to just sign a document because that's what's presented to you. I must be honest, I haven't always followed my own advice. When I've bought cars, the first thing is they check with my bank. When they phone me and say the bank has approved the car finance, what do? We just walk in and just sign. I've never read that contract. But guys, please, buying a home is not like buying a car. Read the contract. Ask to amend it if you wish. And if you're unsure, phone the firm. If you're working with a RE/MAX 1 agent, I would love for you guys to phone us as principals and double check clauses and how the process is going to unfold. I can guess that anyone watching this video knows of multiple other people that are looking to buy a home. And maybe some of these things that we discussed, a lot of other people don't know. When I meet buyers, a lot of buyers don't know a lot of the things that we're chatting about today. So please, if you know friends, family, colleagues who are purchasing homes, who are dealing with other agencies even, share this video, share my contact details, WhatsApp me, email me, ask the questions. And also remember, like and subscribe to this channel because we share inside information. Dealing with regular agents at regular viewings, you won't always know. And to anybody, for those of you who have got agent friends, share this video with them because I want to help agents raise their level of professionalism. I want to help agents become a valuable resource to their clients, their buyers and sellers. I want to help agents work better with buyers, advise buyers better. So agents out there, if you feel there's a gap in your knowledge or your training, reach out to me. This is what we do at RE/MAX 1, home of the best agents and brokers, outstanding agents, outstanding results. That sounded so salesy, but it's true. This is really what I believe.